This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
How are you today? Great to see you. Well, if I could see you. Quite the lineup on the show today. We'll have the suit for the entire final hour. No, not a draw.
Actually, I was more confused than anything. Wait a minute, that's not what's going on.
You're sitting there saying, wait, we had a good show. Why that?
I was wondering what happened between the time I left my house and I got to the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, believe me, the suit feels the same way every day at his job. He wonders what the heck happened between the time he left the house and he got here. Yeah. There you go. Okay, so we've got Matt Catrillo in a few moments, and then the comic relief will be over with. And then, which will be great, because I haven't had lunch yet. I usually eat while Matt's talking. What?
There's plenty of time.
And then Rich Phillips, the play-by-play voice of SMU football, will join us at 1:35. Neil Coulong, 2:05. And Susquehanna football coach Tom Perkovich at 2:35 today. Quite the show.
Your intro also got the suit. he didn't know what was going on either.
Welcome to another day in his world.
Yeah, well, it is a little surprising when you think all of a sudden you hear you might be on the radio for an hour.
Did deliberately just to get him, just to get a rise out of him, just to like, what?
Where's Todd going?
Todd leave? What the hey? Yeah, but yeah. So looking forward to it. As always, there'll be a lot to talk about today. We're going to take it in a lot of different directions. I mean, Susquehanna football, which has just turned into a marvelous story. The Steelers licking their wounds, had to play the Ravens on Saturday. Big AFC North game. And then SMU with Rich. Great guy, great announcer. Looking forward to that. But we'll get the show rolling, as only we can, with Matt Catrillo. And we'll do that in a moment. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
The holidays are a time of year to celebrate and reflect. Reflect on the past year, a year filled with challenges and uncertainty. Uncertainty that bred resilience and hope. Hope for healing, change, new beginnings, and unity. United as one people, one community, by one mission, to safeguard and protect what matters most. From all of us at Purdy Insurance, we wish you health, happiness, and joy this holiday season and success in the new year.
Before we let Matt on, do we have to check with legal to see if we have to record this in case there are any lawsuits?
Well, it is recorded, so we're good.
Oh, good. Boy. Because I don't know about you. I don't want to be attached to some of this stuff, do you? Hello, Matt. How are you?
That's all right. I knew this was being recorded, so, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Sirianni family doesn't have a restraining order from these talks, then we're good.
Actually, it's funny you guys mentioned that. So a family friend of ours, her daughter's son is in the same class in a school in the Cherry Hill, New Jersey area as Nick Sirianni's daughter. So there is some sort of connection there.
They don't happen to mention.
I just learned that recently.
They don't happen to mention your issues, do they?
I actually don't have to because apparently they hear it all the time. When things are going well, they're getting praised. When things are going bad, then they're getting chewed. So I guess I would only just be adding to the fold. So the message is getting across one way or the other, it seems.
I mean, you can't be too unhappy this week, right?
Oh, no. I've been fine with the head coach for the last several weeks now. I mean, I sung his praises last week with the way he handled the whole Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown saga and Brandon Graham saying stupid things in the media. I thought he handled everything extremely well this week, and obviously it paid off because the Eagles pulled off probably their most impressive win of the season on Sunday.
Oh, I thought they were great Sunday. Not good, great. I think the defense, which I was critical of at one point, they're playing great football. Not good, great football.
Yeah, they were huge, especially early in the game when the Eagles decided to keep turning the ball over left and right, and they forced all 3 and outs, 11 total yards allowed to the first quarter and a half on the Steelers' offense. And I get they didn't have George Pickens, but guess what? I thought going into this game, whether or not the Steelers had George Pickens or not, the Eagles were a better team, and they were going to have a lot of matchups in their favor. And regardless of whatever it was with George Pickens, I expected what happened on Sunday. Maybe not 11 yards through almost 2 quarters, but I expected the Eagles to have a lot of success with the way they had on Sunday because of all the different matchups that were in their favor.
Hey, credit where credit's due. Jalen Carter's playing great football. All right, and everybody knows if I'm critical of somebody and then they turn things around or whatever, I'll be the first one to praise him. He's playing great football.
He is, but he needs to shut his mouth. I've added almost up to here with him because he got close finally to costing the Eagles something in the game, and for whatever reason, the Steelers didn't retain possession when he slapped the offensive lineman in the head on the punt. And then you saw Sirianni chewing everybody on the sideline, rightfully so. Now, it seemed like he got more with the defensive line coach than Carter himself, but I guess the message got across. If I'm Sirianni, I go bypass the coach and I go straight to Carter at this point because he needs to learn. He better learn from that he needs to cut off the extracurriculars and just focus on playing the good football that he is, or else then he's going to become a liability again real quick.
Yep. All right. So right now they're the best team in the NFC. And the big reason why I think Detroit is the better team than Philadelphia until all the injuries hit. You can't lose 52% of your first and second team defense to injuries and your running back. Right? I mean, Detroit is just decimated with injuries. So now Philadelphia is number one.
Yeah, that's exactly how it looks right now, at least to me. I still thought if the Eagles and Lions played at full strength, I thought maybe the Eagles could beat them in an NFC Championship game, but definitely now with the way things are, especially with the injuries on Sunday, now you've got a lot more big names out, and now it's both sides of the ball. A defense was already getting hurt. I think I saw there were 13 guys on injured reserve on the defense alone. Now you got David Montgomery out for the year. I mean, eventually it's gonna come back. It's gonna catch up with you, and I think it probably will. And it's gonna come down to the last week of the season when you've got Detroit and Minnesota playing each other. Because other than that, I still think the Lions have a pretty favorable schedule. They got Chicago on the road next week. I still think they could beat them. Then they're at San Francisco, and while it's still going to be a tough physical game for them, San Francisco is just as hurt, if not worse, if they are, and their offense still is in shambles. So I would still lean the Lions there. But then there's Minnesota looming in Week 18, and that could define everything now with everybody tied at 12-2.
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue is they're just out of people. I mean, they're playing practice squad people right now. So we're so close to the holiday. A week from today is Christmas Eve. You usually celebrate by yelling at the TV. So there has to be something that has you upset.
Oh, there is, and it was the report earlier this week about March Madness expanding to 72 and then maybe 76. But no, we're going to stop at 76 because that might be too much. It's already too many teams. 64 was fine, and it was perfectly the way it is. We didn't have to have any of this first four nonsense that nobody gives a waddle about, and now we've got 68. Now we're going to try to make it 72 and then maybe 76? Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe it's just me and my personal taste. But we don't need to have more of first four games of Alabama State, Texas State as the 11 seed to put it at 7:38 at night on True TV to then see them probably get manhandled by whoever the 6th seed is, or the 215 seeds, or 214 seeds, however they do it. I mean, there's a couple of good games maybe they'll put in there as who is like the 10th seed or whatever. But I don't need to have any more of that, any more first four type of games, because we want to get all these smaller teams in. Everybody just wants more money with the NCAA. It should have been kept at 64. I don't want any more than 68 already. 72 and 76, enough. It's just not going to be good basketball.
So if they put the 8 teams in front of you that made it, that's the speech you'd give them?
Yes, exactly. Because either way, nobody's going to be happy. I mean, we even have this conversation now with the first year of a 12-team college football playoff with Alabama. Everybody unhappy, and SEC people, and, of course, Alabama fans that aren't happy that a 3-loss Alabama team didn't get in. And then if the college football playoff does eventually expand to 16, which it seems like it will eventually, then we're still going to have complaints about Sam Houston State or somebody else not getting in. And then what are we going to do? We got to keep expanding so everybody gets a participation trophy? Stop it.
So you think being Team 76 in the NCAA tournament is a participation trophy?
I mean, listen, I guess if you get in, obviously, if you get in, you have a shot. You know, I'm not denying that. But let's also be realistic here. If you're Team 76, your chances of doing something are pretty slim. And so I don't need to have these mediocre games to begin March Madness that are kind of like a tease, and then they're really not that great a game, and then I still have to wait another 2 weeks anyway. I mean, that to me just affects the product in general. Keep it the way it is. Leave well enough alone. It's the exact same phrase that I give to, the exact same advice I give to the NFL. Leave well enough alone. March Madness is great the way it was, and great the way it is now still. with 68, despite having the 4 extra teams now from several years ago. Leave well enough alone.
Well, Mike Rhodes was an assistant coach in 2011, and VCU played in the first 4 in Dayton and made the Final Four.
I know, and if it expands that way and one of those teams get through, then obviously it'll still be a great story. But even with the way the teams are right now at 68, you can still get a good story from whatever Cinderella team, you name it, that might make a run like that. But it's just fine the way it is. Because more often, for every one opportunity that maybe you'll get a Cinderella team, is going to be another 4 or 5 other games or teams that'll be mediocre, that barely deserve to be in, or maybe don't even deserve to be in because they got in because of simply expanding it by a dozen teams, and then you got mediocre basketball to watch for an extra 2 weeks before you actually get to the good stuff the way it was originally.
So there are 364 teams. 288 won't make it. You'd rather have 300 not make it?
Yes, exactly the case. Last time I checked, now this was going into the St. Bonnie game for Bucknell almost 2 weeks ago now. Their NPI ranking, I believe, was 237, something like that. I don't need to have 236 teams prior to that in, and then Bucknell's the one team out. I don't need that either. And obviously, you know me, I love Bucknell. I love doing my job, and I hope the men can turn things around a little bit here, and we have a good Patriot League season. I got Cuse and Gonzaga, of course, coming up to close out 2024 before league play begins in January. But, I mean, again, let's be realistic here. Let's not get crazy.
So they're just enough for the right number of teams in the district football playoffs, but too many in the NCAA tournament?
Well, there's issues there, too. Don't let me get me started with that. Ever since the PIAA went to 6 classifications, you've got too many 2 and 5 or 1 and 6 or even some winless teams in the playoffs, and then you're doing a basically meaningless 56-0 game where it's over in the first quarter. And from a broadcast standpoint, nobody wants that either, especially from a broadcast standpoint. I can tell you that, because then you have to go, you have to talk through and hack through 3 quarters of praising the one team and then praising the other team. Oh, they gave it a good fight. Give them credit for fighting for all they can, this and that. I don't want to do that for 3 quarters. And I'm sure when you talk to the greats for CBS, True TV, TBS, TNT, they don't want to do all that for an extra week and a half if these games are blowouts. Come on. And nobody wants to listen or watch that either.
So you're saying you don't like your job?
I mean, I would still rather, there's still many things I'd rather not do than
Todd, am I
this.
misinterpreting
so,
here?
Don't get me wrong there. I still would rather call it 56-0
Todd, am I misinterpreting?
game than,
am I missing something?
Work a regular 9-to-5 job. But, I mean, I'm also being honest here.
How critical are you of your kids?
Listen, they got to learn somehow.
Oh.
The game I did last night. Yeah, I did Shikellamy Central Columbia girls basketball last night.
Yeah.
There were almost a combined 50 turnovers between both teams. 30 of them for the game were by Shikellamy. I would be using that as an example as to if you blame anything else of the why you lost, I look at it, you and your teammates turned the ball over 30 times. You don't deserve to win. I'm sorry. Just using that as an example. I'm not to pile on Shikellamy girls basketball, but that's just an example.
No, we wouldn't want to do that.
You gotta take some punches if you're gonna win somehow. If you're gonna be successful. So I'm gonna teach them that.
Well,
they have a
with
bad
you,
game, we're going to go through it, and we're going to get better from it.
well, you doled out some punches today. Again, we want to say hi to the Sirianni family. Thanks for listening.
Go get him, Nick.
We'll talk to you Monday.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, light, business, motorcycle, RV have a multitude of insurance needs. They handle them all, and they do everything they can to save you money because customer service means everything to them at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. He is without question one of the best in the business. He is the voice of SMU football and basketball, Rich Phillips. Absolute pleasure, Rich. Great to have you with us on the show today.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So I know you and I exchanged some lineups earlier in the week. So
yes.
Let's get into your team. When the move was made from Preston Stone to Kevin Jennings, what did it do to the SMU offense as to what they could do that maybe they couldn't do before?
One thing it really did, and it was really evident in the game where the change kind of happened. I mean, both guys played each of the first three games, but in Game 3 against BYU, the pass rush was just relentless when Preston Stone was in. And because of the mobility and the speed of Kevin Jennings, they backed off with that pass rush. And we've seen more of that since then. And then, frankly, Kevin's just grown into the offense so much. He's a little over a year removed from his first start. He had to take over in the American Athletic Conference Championship game last year when Preston got hurt. And from that time to now, his trust in his offense, his trust in his teammates, and his trust in himself has grown immensely. He doesn't just look to take off and run anytime the pocket breaks down. He'll move around. He can throw on the run. He can set and throw. His arm talent is just, to me, off the charts for a guy who's only 6 foot tall. I'm really impressed with how well he could throw the football.
Right, and you're talking also 66%. There's been some accuracy to go with that, right?
Yeah, definitely so. And again, it comes from his arm talent. I mean, the angles that he can throw from that helps make up a little bit, I think, sometimes for his lack of height. There's times where he'll have a big pass rusher coming right in his face, and he'll drop down sidearm and throws a bullet. And it's really impressive with how strong his arm is, and that leads a lot, I think, to the accuracy that he has, too.
Rashard Smith was a wide receiver at Miami. What did Rhett Lashley see in him that said, you know what, he could be a, quote, running back for us?
Well, he knew he wanted him here because, of course, Rhett was his offensive coordinator for, I believe, 1 year while he was at Miami, one of the 2 years that Rhett was there. And he knew he wanted him here, but he didn't have a place for him at wide receiver. He knew he would be a dangerous kickoff returner, and he felt he could be a running back here just because of his speed. He only had 18 carries in his 3 years that he played at Miami. And, he became, as an all-purpose player, an All-American this year here at SMU. He has really grabbed the bull by the horns himself, Rashard has, because he's not just a guy that needs to bounce it outside and use his speed. He's not afraid to run up the middle between the tackles. He's really improved from game one to now with his blitz pickup and his protection to the quarterback, too. And frankly, I think he may have turned himself into an NFL player with this one dynamic season he's had here.
He's been outstanding, over 1,100 yards rushing. And how valuable is he to Kevin Jennings, just swinging out of the backfield and just being there?
Very much so. And they'll even run him downfield, too, because that is the other side of it is when they send him downfield, he makes moves and catches balls like a wide receiver does. He's not just a back out of the backfield. He knows what to do when he gets downfield. And And as a running back, he often ends up in mismatches, too, with linebackers trying to defend him downfield. So, yeah, he's been a real dangerous weapon all the way around.
Daniels, he made a phenomenal catch in the ACC championship game to set up a touchdown. When you look at him in the running game, wide receiver, and as a returner, what does he mean to this team?
A little bit of everything, and it's a shame that we're just about done with him here. He's played all 4 years here. He didn't get a COVID year, doesn't get a redshirt year, and we keep looking for another year because he's absolutely playing his best in the last month and a half. And you mentioned in the running game early in the season, because of injuries, he ended up, as a matter of fact, in the Florida State game, he was the number 2 running back for that game. And at one point, the number 1, because Brashard Smith went to the locker room with a minor injury at one point. He's gone back to wide receiver now pretty much full-time, partly because of numbers there with some injuries. But he is a playmaker. He's got big playability. As a punt returner, he's nerve-wracking. Let's put it that way. He had a touchdown earlier this year. He had a touchdown last year, too. But he'll muff one on you here or there. So he can be a little bit nerve-wracking back there. But obviously a huge weapon for them all the way around.
How about the word adventurous? You like that?
There you go.
Yeah, adventurous would be good. I like that. Everybody gets hit with injuries. I can give you the list. In fact, I gave you the list of guys that were not on the depth chart for Penn State that have the long-term injury deal. SMU's been hit with it as well, a tight end and wide receiver. What kind of impact has that had down the stretch?
Well, not as much as would have in years past before this was a Power 4 program because they have the depth. I mean, at the start of the season, running back has been hit with injuries too. At the start of the season, we were wondering how 4 guys were going to get carries. Well, one was injured on the second day of fall camp, and one was injured in week 2 of the season of those 4 guys. And so now you're down to Brashard Smith and his primary backup, L.J. Johnson. Wide receiver, they've been down to 4 for the most part for a month. Now they've added one in since, Romello Brinson, a guy who was hurt early in the season, and they opted to hold him out so that he actually got a red shirt and come back next year. But he can play here in the postseason, and he had a great game last week against Clemson. R.J. Maryland, huge loss at tight end. He's not quite as good as your guy, but he's pretty good. The thing that's been great is that Matt Hibner, who you guys may have seen when he was at Michigan the last several years, he caught 2 balls in all of his time at Michigan, and he's turned into a really reliable receiver here and has a chance to come back next year, too, with a COVID year at his disposal. So they've been able to make up for those losses because of the depth that they have recruited here, which is something that for this program is an all-new thing to do.
Well, in fact, he played here last year for Michigan. And see, that's, when I look at the transfer portal, it's guys like him that I look at and that it makes sense because he's behind Cortland Loveland, right? With all due respect to him, because they've kind of established what the pecking order is, he's not going to pass him out. Now he goes to SMU, he's got a great opportunity. To me, that's what the portal's about.
Yeah, and at the start of this year, he was behind R.J. Maryland, and they weren't throwing him the ball much. And as soon as R.J. blew his knee out in the Stanford game, he became the number 1 guy. And he even showed a speed we didn't know he had. He had an 80-yard touchdown catch against Pitt last month. So he's made the most of his opportunity here in the last half of the season.
Defensively, those Booker I've seen before because he played at Maryland against Penn State. The 2 defensive ends to me are very impressive. What have they done to really disrupt offenses to this point?
So Elijah Roberts was a guy who had 10 sacks last season, has not put up the same numbers sack-wise this year, but he has such a great effect on the game. He's played way differently this year than he was last year, and it's limited his sack numbers, but Pro Football Focus has had him among the top 3, top 5 in quarterback pressures all season long. So he's very disruptive that way. And then Jafari Harvey off the other edge, a Miami transfer. By the way, Elijah was a Miami transfer last year, and Harvey a Miami transfer this year. And you've probably seen we got a lot of those on this SMU roster.
Yeah.
Jafari, though, has tremendous speed coming off the edge. He's got an interesting trick, too, if you saw the way the Duke game ended. SMU had to block a field goal at the end of regulation to have any chance, and he did a one-step hop over the line and then another hop to block the field goal that would have won the game for Duke. gave SMU the chance to win it in overtime. But really athletic and really fast off the edge is what Harvey brings with him.
And I also noticed in watching, some video, there'll be times where Roberts and Harvey, in past situations, occasionally line up on the same side together. How effective has that package been?
Very much so, because Elijah will move in and play defensive tackle because he's got enough size to play inside, and it allows them to get either Cameron Robertson or Isaiah Smith as the other edge rusher opposite of Jafari Harvey. And Smith is a guy who's been a career backup here, and he has 14 sacks in his 3 seasons here, and he may be the fastest guy on the defensive line. So that's really one of the advantages, is it gives you another pass rush threat on the inside, but bringing another one of their really good edge rushers on top of it.
Kobe Wilson, side to side, I'm impressed watching him play at that linebacking spot. What has he meant to that defense?
Oh, he's meant so much. This is his second year after transferring in from Temple, and he's a guy who came in with a chip on his shoulder because he was pretty lightly recruited coming out of high school, coming out of Georgia, and felt he should have been considered for by power conference schools, and he wasn't. And he's played like it for 2 years, and he is absolutely the vocal leader and the emotional leader of that defense. It's funny because Ahmad Walker, who plays alongside him at linebacker, they're roommates, they're best friends, and they're complete polar opposites personality. Ahmad never says anything, and Kobe doesn't stop talking, and we enjoy it. He's fun, but he is a real dynamic guy, and he had a pick 6 this year against Florida State that was the most determined 82-yard run the team has had this season, as he ran through and literally over guys. He's been a huge part of this defense here.
Plays a lot of zone in the secondary. Your thoughts on how the secondary's played to this point?
Definitely they're better than we thought they were going to be. Cornerback was the biggest question coming into this season for SMU. Brandon Crossley, a guy that moved from safety out to corner this year, has really, really grown into that role. They kind of rotated the other side between 2 guys with Deuce Harmon and Jalen Davis-Robinson. Now, the safety spot, they got 3 of them. They'll play 3 spots they play. They've got 4 guys they'll rotate amongst those spots. And that's really the strength of this defense right behind those linebackers. Isaiah Wakobe, at number 23, really the leader of that group. He was all-conference in the ACC this year and has been kind of the physical force of the defense on the back end.
And Colin Rogers, I mean, look, I've done this a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a kicker 15 of 21 beyond 40 yards. What has his scoring range meant to SMU's ability to score?
One of the biggest things is end of half. If they get the ball back at late first half with a minute to go, you always just all right, get to the 40, maybe the 38, and you're in field goal range. And that's kind of the goal at that point, because it's a luxury that Rhett Lashley admits that he has and he likes to take advantage of. He's 7 of 11, I believe, this year from 50-plus. That's one off the NCAA record for 50-yard field goals in a season. It's been tremendous to have a kicker who's that reliable. He's the all-time leading scorer in SMU history. 3 guys were tied for that record. One of them you may have heard of, Eric Dickerson, who was tied for that record previously. And he broke that 1st of October this season, and he's going to be here for another year, too.
Yeah. So, Rich, I have to ask you about the transition to the ACC. I know that the SMU is not taking television money because in part they can afford to do it. I also understand within 48 hours of the ACC announcement, the amount of money raised was phenomenal. What did it mean to go from a group of 5, an American champion, which they were a year ago, to being in a Power 4 like this? What did it mean to the SMU community?
Well, you hit on it, although it was not quite 2 days. We took a week after the announcement was made last year to raise $100 million. $100 million in 1 week. That's all.
Yeah.
Because while not taking the TV money, they are still getting the other revenue sources from the conference, which already puts them ahead of where they were in the American. But they want to compete on the same financial level, so they had to get the donor support, and they saw it immediately. We have a small stadium here at SMU, certainly compared to Beaver Stadium, but the crowds weren't anywhere near filling the place up for many, many years. And they sold out 3 games, and every game had the best attendance. They had the highest percentage increase in the country in attendance this year among all the power schools. it has meant so much to a fan base that's been starved for this kind of thing ever since the death penalty hit the program in 1987.
Yeah, I know. I remember going back to that, and I talked about it the other day. The one common denominator player-wise is Matt McCartan, who played at SMU. Death penalty happened. He ended up starting as a tackle here at Penn State. He was out at Dallas Highlands, I think, high school. And he's the one common denominator. But when they gave SMU the death penalty, they really gave them a long-term sentence. It took forever for them to get out of it. It must have been just a tough road to get there. And Rhett's done an obviously phenomenal job with this.
Yeah, and some of it started before him, too. But, yeah, it was a tough road after the death penalty, and some of it was self-inflicted because the school wanted to make sure things like that didn't happen again. And they locked down so many things with academic requirements and things like that made it tough to compete on the right level football-wise. You know, I think they started to turn the corner a little bit as far back as 2009 when June Jones was here in his second year, got him to a bowl game for the first time in 25 years. Sonny Dykes came in 18, and he's the one who brought Rhett Lashley here as his offensive coordinator in 2018, and in 2019 got the school back into the top 25 for the first time since the mid-'80s, and they've kind of got it going there. I mean, they've had double-digit wins now in 3 of the last 6 seasons, 2 in a row here with Rhett Lashley leading them, but it's been a long slog to get here, I know that.
What's the excitement level around this game in the Dallas area?
Oh, huge. You know, our professional football team's not doing so well around here. So the college team has stepped in at the right time, you know, and frankly, the other side of the Metroplex, TCU, hasn't been at the same level the last 2 years after they went to the national championship game with a bit of surprise, kind of like SMU's here in the CFP this year. But, yeah, it's as big as I have seen for this program since the Pony Express days, for sure.
It's going to be a great game coming up on Saturday. Rich, I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Thanks so much for all the time you gave me before and all the time today. I really appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. Now, you're going to hold the snow off for us, right?
I don't think it's going to snow on Saturday. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's actually, I think that part.
Huh?
Well, I didn't say life was perfect.
We can deal with 26, just no snow. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much in the precipitation part. 26, yeah, probably. So,
all right.
Yeah,
it was 38
just warm,
last
you'll be
week
good.
at the ACC championship, so I think they can deal with that.
There you go, Rich. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Rich Phillips, play-by-play voice, SMU football, and yeah. The difference is going to be the wind. That's the part that is always a concern. It's not so much when Penn State played at Minnesota. The kickoff temperature was 40, but then dropped down to 30, when it got dark. It dropped down to about 30, 32, but the difference was there was no wind. It was cold. I mean, our booth was really cold. But there was no wind. So you can deal with that. When they played Maryland, it was, 24, 25, 26, but it had wind. And that's the part I didn't get the hint to Rich. There's going to be wind on Saturday, right? There's going to be wind, and that is an issue. And that's always in football. You can deal with rain. You can deal with snow. Wind is the variable that's very difficult to deal with. We'll come back with more in a moment. Great to have you with us today on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
The holidays are a time of year to celebrate and reflect. Reflect on the past year, a year filled with challenges and uncertainty. Uncertainty that bred resilience and hope. Hope for healing, change, new beginnings, and unity. United as one people, one community, by one mission, to safeguard and protect what matters most. From all of us at Purdy Insurance, we wish you health, happiness, and joy this holiday season and success in the new year.
We've gone from Matt Catrillo to the intelligent, measured Rich Phillips, the voice of SMU football. Doug Birdsong texted me about Matt, the Matt segment. He said, when you mentioned that VCU's run from the first four, he was literally speechless. And then the part about where he's complaining about last night's Shikellamy girls game, and I said, you really don't like your job. And I said, he says, it is mercifully the music started. I texted it back. I said, he opens himself up. It's like hunting at a zoo.
I got called on and couldn't even get a word in edgewise.
I tried to get you in there. I thought I need a voice of reason here. It's going to be something. It's interesting you brought that up because I'm actually going to. Mike Rhodes is the talk show subject on Thursday night for the coaches show for Penn State, and it actually is something I wanted to bring up with him because they're coming out and just to get his thought and feel on. I know you'll be getting his team ready for Drexel, Zach Spiker's team on Saturday at noon down at Wells Fargo in Philly. But, I mean, you also want to ask some big picture questions because it affects, what the future of the game looks like. So I was actually going to ask Mike about that anyway. And I thought, oh, it's interesting Matt brought it up. I was going to do that on Thursday. Now, Mike will give a better answer. What?
A little calmer, I would assume, too.
By the way, what I didn't tell Rich is that it's going to snow here Friday night. Now, it's not going to snow during the game, but it is going to snow here Friday night. Right? So they'll be sitting at the hotel going, what the heck?
Well, hopefully they have a good view of the mountains and get the beauty of it.
Yeah, I don't know. My guess is they'll be staying out in Boalsburg. That's my guess. Kickoff temperature 26, wind chill 11.
Oh. My living room will be 72.
Well, don't rub it in.
Listening to News Radio.